Okay. Welcome, guys. Thank you, guys, for joining us this evening on another cool workshop by Dr. Gianni on data quality and data ownership, building of solid foundation for data-driven success. Special thanks to our sponsor, the National Institute for Theoretical and Computational Sciences. This is our fourth workshop, so we still have 3 more to go in addition to this. But thank you guys for joining us this evening. And just to quickly introduce our cool host, cool speaker, Dr. Jeanne Fredericks. Dr. Fredericks is a data evangelist and seasoned educator with a passion for demystifying the world of data, strategy, change, and transformation. As a social scientist, she has years of experience in the field of collecting and analyzing data to tell stories that leads to significant business improvement. She owns a consulting firm, the Change Hub, that specializes in organizational transformation, where she works with top listed JSE companies and global conglomerates to align their people, process, and technologies with their strategies. Dr. Fredericks holds a PhD in information systems from the University of Cape Town and is a sought-after speaker in data, strategy, and business change and transformation. She also has standing invitations from UCT, University of Western Cape, and Stellenbosch University Business School to bring industry knowledge into the classroom. Thank you again for speaking today, Dr. Gianni, and I will leave the reins to you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I just want to see if people can send some chats through. So just write there, hi, in the chat. I've got a little device here where I can just see everybody's comments, and we're going to be as interactive as we possibly can be in the session. Oh, hello. Oh, thank you. This is fantastic. Okay, we've got some really alive people in the audience, which is great. Okay, fantastic. Right, let's get into data quality and data ownership. I have to say, out of all the data domains, data quality is by far my favorite one. I don't know why. We just have our favorites, right? Just is what it is. All right, so data quality, just very quick definition, is defined by the fitness of use. It just means that it needs to be fit for its intended purpose, it must reflect real value, and it must meet reasonable standards. Now, I'm not the type of person who goes into all the definitions and stuff like that. We'll just go into fun stuff to make things make sense on our end. So I just wanted to get that out there. Right, so why is data quality so important, right? So I'm going to start with, I think in today's day and age, in the modern age, people are very much, oh, we need to do AI, we need to have a chatbot, we need to have all of these kind of stuff. But this is some of the issues that can happen when you try to shoot for the moon, and it's great to do so, but you don't have the right data in place. So I want you to look at this picture on top. This is a very disturbing, but still cute AI fail. It's where an AI model couldn't see the difference between these cute little puppies and Kentucky Fried Chicken, or whatever fried chicken that was. Yeah, and that is just really poor data that went in there, right? It's that's why I say it's cute still, but imagine. This is a more serious case that we had. Amazon, they used AI to help them with their screening process to hire people. And yeah, it turned out there were quite a bit of bias that was built into that model. Just a very quick question to everybody. Which gender do you think it was discriminating against? I just want to see what people think. Yeah, just put it in the comment. Which gender you think was discriminated against. I'm not seeing it. Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. Oh, I think this is one of those where people don't want to say it out loud, but yeah, deaf female. Thanks, Dando. And really, it was, when we're creating these models, it's based on years and years of data, of past data. And the problem is, the past data wasn't really indicative of who was the right person, or the best candidate for the job. It was just who was hired for the job. It's not equal. The hired person was the best person, right? So it was discriminated. And I think this was circa 2016, and it has been discarded. So I went to, not Siri, I went to ChatGPT, and I was like, ChatGPT, like brosive. Can artificial intelligence be able to survive without data? And just give me a yes or no. And the answer was just an unequivocal no. So as you can see, even ChatGPT was like, data is legit important. So we need good data for us to have good AI models. Now, in the more traditional sense, in terms of data, this is a project that I was running. Where was this? We were at a warehouse, and they wanted to improve the way that they were delivering products that was products that were ordered. And the first thing that we did was the organization couldn't figure out where the problems were. We said, let's look at it from a data perspective. So we collected a couple of some data. One of the things that we realized, we did a value stream mapping to say, these are all the key activities that you're doing in your process. I want you to look at the variation between what actually happens in the waiting time between. As you can see, some of these things were just ridiculous. Someone sent in a purchase requisition, and it took like a half a year for one to be signed off. And it was just a ridiculous value stream that we said, okay, why are you focusing on these things here where that is not so, you can see the impact of it is not so big. Focus on this process over here. So we were like, okay, that's at least a start of the process. And we could do that with data. Something else that we did for that organization, for instance, were to look at their processes and see where were they putting all their people to execute. And the biggest process that we've identified with the most people and their hours that is spent here is inventory counting. And I was just like, okay, your purpose is to deliver products to whomever was ordering it. And you spend most of your time on counting the inventory in your warehouse. I think this may be not a good use of your resources. So data can be used in many, many different ways. And one of the things I just want to highlight again is making better decisions and improve the profitability and growth. So I'm going to ask you a question, and again, come back to the chat. I just want to see what everybody's saying. What is the first company that comes to mind when we say the word digital? I just want to see what everybody says here in the commentary. If we say the word digital, first company that comes to mind. Katlego, what is your favorite? Google. Thanks you, Johnny. I think Katlego, you're still on mute. Google again. Thanks, Yoko.
First company, Panasonic.
Panasonic. Like the battery people. Wait, what do Panasonic
make? It's Sony Rex. Yeah, now I'm actually revealing my age. Nokia. I don't know if that even counts as digital, but yes, in that space.
Sure, that is that. Okay. Okay, I see people are saying Google here. Fantastic.
Interesting.
Did anybody think McDonald's?
No.
Not even. Did it not even come up? No, not McDonald's. Okay. Here's the thing. Why I wanted to highlight McDonald's, right? This is what they've done. Thank you, Tiffany. Yeah, there we go. All right, so McDonald's started somewhere in the 1940s, and their goal up until the 2010s really have been fast service delivery, right? We want to get you in and out of the door really quickly. You order what you want, and boom, there you go. Nothing has changed in that regard in terms of their goals, right? They have about 60 million customers per day. That is a crap load of customers per day. And about 70% of their sales are from customers who do not want to leave their cars. So we're like, okay, we're going to be looking at this here. What can we do to make it even better? So they were focusing on removing complicated choices to speed up the ordering process. Now, how did they do that? through self-service. So they put in some kiosks, some mobile apps, digital menus, etc. Now, why am I speaking about digital when this presentation really is about data quality, right? And ownership. The thing is, you cannot have digital without data. I want you to think of Google, because those are the answers that we got here, and Nokia and Panasonic, and think what their companies would be like if they didn't have any data. It's very difficult to do what they do without data, right? So data, very important. So McDonald's, what they've done is back in 2019, and they acquired a company, Dynamic Yield, which is an AI company. They've since sold it, I think, to MasterCard. But when they acquired this company, they created these digital menus. And when you go up to the drive-through, I just want to see, has anybody seen these digital menus before? I have to say, I haven't been to a Mickey D's in a while. I'm more of a bring the food to me in the rain type of person. There we go. I see some. Yes. All right. So what happens with these digital menus is it changes on the weather, because they've got data in terms of if this is the weather, these are the type of things that people are most likely to order. It changes on local trends, the availability of food, and then also your previous orders. Now, in some of the McDonald's, what they do is they even scan your license plate to see your previous orders. Just a very quick question in the comments. Are you surprised by the data that McDonald's on? I see a little scary face. They're like, yeah, they do. That McDonald's collect. It's a lot of data, because they're just like, we need to make this work, right? Type thing. Great, fantastic. Now, McDonald's could use that to improve their operations and bring in more revenue and things like that. Is fantastic. But the opposite can also be true in terms of when you have that poor quality data. This is a Samsung. It would have been really funny, Katligo, if you said Samsung. So this is an error that a Samsung employee made back in 2018. So instead of giving 100 won per share to workers, they issued 1,000 shares per worker. So you can imagine how, wow. So that was like $105 billion mistake. The error was fixed in 37 minutes, but there were 16 employees who still sold their shares and got some money out of it. Now, I've got a question for everybody in the audience as well. Would you have cashed out? I'm going to be honest. If I was someone who actually checked my emails and notifications, yes. Oh, Johnny said, no, you would not have. Whoa, okay, we've got some upstanding citizens here. See, Louise, now that I agree, yes, we check out. All right. I think they're still in litigation with some of the employees, but this was just a small error that somebody made that cost the company this much, and it created such a risk for the organization, right? Another one, and I think this is the saddest story that I have ever seen in my entire life. Also in 2018, was not a good year for data. So a researcher was on a 3-month sabbatical with no income and made a small mistake on a survey for one of her research initiatives. And the data was so poor that I had to extend my sabbatical by another 3 months. So that meant it was 6 months without me having an income, just because I made a very, very, very tiny error on one of my research instruments. And it took me a minute to fix. Once I knew what the error was, I was just like, oh my gosh, I just needed to change this thing. But I mean, it was harsh vibes. Thank you. Like, yeah, oh shame, like legit. I think I nearly cried. It was a Sunday when I realized that mistake. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like for realsies. Okay, so I had a choice to make. I could go back to work and still figure this out, but I had to go back and collect some data, and because the error on the instrument led to poor quality data, I couldn't even run the tests that I needed for the study that I was doing. So yeah, 6 months without an income is harsh vibes, especially when you made it was tiny mistake. My gosh, but still, huge impact. Right. Now, why? So I'm going to just quickly look at data quality in data science and analytics. Now, when we do a data science project, it doesn't mean that part of the process is to clean up some data, right? You need to adjust the formats and things like that because you need a model to work. So let's just say you got a data set that came in, and in one cell it said date and time. It was in one cell, just the timestamp. It had the date and time in there. But for your model, you're like, you know what? I actually need to split it. I need to have date in one column and I need to have time in another column. Now, those are normal type things that you need to do as part of your preparation for before you get to the analysis. Or let's say you had a survey. The survey came back with people saying strongly agree, but in order for you to run your quantitative analysis, you need to say strongly agree equals 5 in this data set, for instance. So those are normal things that we need to do. So the data quality that I'm talking about here is more around the quality of data that comes in before we actually have to do all of these updates. It's that type of data quality. I just wanted to put it into context. And a very common approach for data quality in organizations with low maturity when it comes to data is being very reactive. So if something comes in and it's not of good quality, I just find a workaround. Like, yeah, but I'm just not going to go back to Jane who sent me the document. I'm just going to fix it. I know what this is trying, and I'm just going to find some workarounds in it, and I'm going to make assumptions. I'm going to clean some stuff up. Or if you need to load it onto a system and you know somebody else is going to check, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, I just need to do a bit of a cleanup here. My favorite one, and I see this all the time when organizations implement new systems, then it's like, guys, we need to do a data cleanup. We cannot take this data into the new environment. It needs to. And it's like, okay, very reactive. So that poor data that was there was just there until a new system came along, and now all of a sudden we need to fix it. What we would like to get to is to have proactive data quality approaches, right? Where you trace the sources of bad data and eliminate the causes. And through this today, we're going to go through a framework that you can use to actually do that. A data use case, for instance, on how to improve data quality. I don't know, Katleho, are you excited about that? It's very quiet. I don't like listening to myself very often. All right, cool. So our data management approach, very quickly, we're going to start with a business goal, and I'm going to go through each one of them in detail. Just a very quick summary here. Not all data is equal. So it's not the best approach to say, I'm just going to clean all my data or improve the quality of it. You have to look at what's the data that has the most value. And those are the things that you focus on. So you must have a business goal. Are you improving operations? Are you know, there could be anything, but there must be a goal behind why you are improving your data. Then you assess the quality of the key data that you've identified that will help you with that business goal. You're going to do some root cause analysis to find out why that data is the way that it is. And then, very important, you're going to find ways to prevent that from happening again, because one of the biggest issues that people have is they do a data cleanup. 3 months later, they need to do another data cleanup because we are not fixing the root cause. And then, of course, we need to monitor the results. Again, like I said, it's all about materiality and proportionality. Not all data is equal. So let's go through this. Can I just get some reaction on that people are still awake? Just give me a thumbs up or heart or laughy or something. Thank you very much.
All good, all good.
Very, love it. Okay. Oh, I've got a heart. Oh, fantastic. Right. So let's assume that you are an organization that is taking care of the citizens of a country, right? And you said one of your goals is, and this is, maybe I should have had a different example because this is quite it's quite dark. So let's just say your goal is you want to reduce flood related deaths and injuries by sending notifications to people, and then shelter instructions within 15 minutes of receiving an inclement weather and flood warning report. Okay, because maybe not everybody is aware of it, and you need to be like, hey, we are an authorized organization, please listen to us, go get yourself to safety, and this is the nearest safety place that you can go to. My question to everybody on the call is, what key data do you think you need to make this work? I just want to see what people say. Yoko, do you have any ideas?
Weather notification.
Oh, yeah, so you are receiving the weather notification. Fantastic. Cool. The weather report, the location. So Louise saying the location of what? The people, or where the weather is going to happen, or the storm is going to happen? Let's see. Okay. Contact details of the people. That's a very good one. There we go. Town and regional data. Fantastic. Okay, so yeah, we started with the business goal, and now you are identifying key data. Oh, yeah, key data. Now, if I said, oh, but you need to update their date of birth, I mean, is that even going to make any sense? And that is what I meant by not all data is equal. You link to a goal and then define the demographics, absolutely. So a couple of things, absolutely, your citizen name and surname, their address, geolocated, preferably, their cell phone number, because how else are you going to let them know? You can't send an email. Well, you can, but how often do people check the emails? Most likely that they will check WhatsApp or things like that. And perhaps the nearest safe zone, because your goal is to say, well, I see that you are in this region. This is the nearest safe zone that you can go to, and give some instructions. And a business rule around that data quality could be, when it comes to the addresses and cell phone numbers, they must be accurate. Find a way to make sure that that is always updated. And we've got a 90% tolerance, because this is quite important. So that is a way that you can then ring fence to say, guys, for what we are trying to achieve in the organization, this is the key data elements that we have, and you need to make sure that there's somebody there that makes sure that the quality of the data is taken care of continuously. So that is defining your business goal. I never start with data. I always start with the goal. Why are you doing this? Next, now that you know your key data elements, we need to assess it, right? So you need to run those data set against some quality rules. I just want to check on the call. What quality rules do you think we need to run this against? And if you don't know, that's okay. We're going to go into 8 quality dimensions for completeness. There we go. Fantastic. Thank you, Tebogo. Okay, cool. Check if all the data is complete. That's a very good starting point. Anybody else? Accuracy, absolutely. Now, accuracy is a little bit more difficult to look at than completeness. So you need to find ways to make sure that you can validate that. The relevance, this, yep. All right, so I'm going to go into some of, so these are my favorite ones to look at. Not everything would be applicable, but I'm going to go through each of these dimensions so that we can understand what it means, what it is, what does it look like in context. So the first 3 C's: completeness, conformity, consistency. You've got your accuracy, duplicates, integrity, timelines, and reasonableness. Right, cool. So let's go into the first one, completeness. So this means that okay. So I think this is an easier one to really get into. If I have one record and I've got one citizen, I would like a name and surname for that citizen, their cell phone number, and whatever else we said needs to be in the data, right? Now, data sets can still be complete even if optional data is empty. So let's say your citizen name and surname, but there is an optional field that says middle name or preferred name, for instance. It's because you've got the, you know, those asterisks. Have you ever completed a form and then it has like an asterisk? I don't know how to say that word, but anyway, those are the things where you say, like, these are the things that we absolutely want to have. So that is completeness. I see someone raise their hand. Or was that, okay, my apologies. If you do have any questions, just plonk them into the chat. Okay. Tondora, you said yes. Was that to, I think people can't speak on the call, right, Katleho?
No.
Oh, okay. So, oh, William, yeah, I should just call it a star. Yeah, absolutely right. So if you do have a question, please just plonk it into the chat. Absolutely, the star means mandatory, but it can be completed even if you've got gaps in your data set. If it was an optional field, so that's completeness. Conformity. So this means that each field has a set of rules that we need to conform to. The easiest one, for instance, here is, so let's say a phone number appears as your phone number and there's a date in there. That is not conforming to our standards of what a phone number should be. For instance, in South Africa, we could say our phone numbers need to be 10 digits long because we know it's 10 digits. It needs to start with a 0. If it is a cell phone number, it needs to start with predefined numbers. I'm not sure if it's still those because things have changed with the MTNs and the Vodacoms and those kind of people. But you set those rules out to say for this particular field, this is the conformity rules, so that even when somebody fills out a form, for instance, and they only have 9 digits, the system can say, hey, something is not so great here. Do you mind? Something is, yeah, go and check it out. Okay, so conformity, very important there. So very quick question just to the audience. Is the ID number that you see on screen likely to be correct? Okay, I just want to see a yes or a no in the chat. No, David is saying no. Oh, somebody is saying, yep, it's likely to be correct. Fantastic. Who else has an answer there? There's no wrong, well, there is a wrong answer, but don't feel bad about it. Yoko is saying yes. We've got, okay, so we've got some no's and we've got some yeses. All right. Now, it looks correct, right? We know it's 13 digits. But the problem is usually the first 6 digits that we have indicates the date that you were born, right? So this person was born in 1991 and February. Is there 31 days in February? You know, so it's like, there's something wrong. There's certain rules that we can put into the system. Yoko missed that. There's 30, yeah. So those are the type of things that we can build into the system to help check this out. Now, I may not be able to, when Katleho gives me his ID number, tell if that specific ID number is Katleho's, unless I get like external data and things like that, or if I have his ID number or something like that. But there are certain rules that you can build into the system to pick up things like this, to start minimizing the errors that you're getting into the system. There's no system should have accepted this value because there's no way that this can be right. So there may have been a typo. Okay, this is fun stuff. And then we look at consistency. Now, this is especially difficult when you have multiple systems, or you know what, when people are just not, I've seen it in the same system where people are just not trained in terms of how to put data in. So for instance, you have, instead of saying Western Cape, some people say WC, others write out Western Capes, others say, you know, it's in South Africa, WC. Now okay, presentation. Now the computer doesn't know that Western Cape and ZA and Western Cape here is the same thing. So they may see this as 3 different regions. So this is just something that we need to look at. Now, if you have multiple systems, when you ingest data into another one, you could put rules in there that starts transforming the data so that all can speak the same thing, exactly, standardization. But this is definitely one of those things can really mess up some of the data quality that we have. Yeah, accuracy. As I said before, accuracy is one of those things that's sometimes a little difficult to check for, but there are certain rules that you can put in place to see if it just doesn't look right. So for instance, let's say you listed, let's just say you said you live in Cape Town. I think 8,000 is Cape Town somewhere, right? I'm not quite sure. You said you live in Cape Town, but you put your postal code in as 7532. I don't know where this is, but because you can put some master data in there, we have a finite number of postal codes that you can use. So if the area that they put in doesn't match the postal code, the system should be like, this doesn't look right. Now, one thing that you can do in this instance, and for me, it's always, what are the things that we can do where we don't ask people to type in something? So perhaps someone can just like, where do you live? Cool, I'm just going to click an address because we've got that preloaded. There's only so many areas that we can live in, right? So put down there Western Cape, I'm just going to click on it. So those are the type of things that we can do to help reduce the inaccuracy of data. So 4 more dimensions to go. Let's start with duplicate. So this could be the same record for different people. So you've got Katlego as like 5 people. Now the computer may see that as 5 separate entities or separate people, but all the details are the same. So it's actually just one person. So you could be overestimating whatever calculations that you are doing. And then integrity. This one is also one of those toughies, but you can build something into a system to go and check this. So for instance, if I have a data set that says Katlego is a citizen here, but nowhere in the master data, wherever we keep that, is there Katlego as a citizen. So how did this get into this table? So that is like some reference lookups that we can look into where one part doesn't link up to the master data that we have. So let's say we entered someone's citizen's details, and we have a John that lives in Arkansas, and we're like, we only have 9 province. We don't have an Arkansas. How did this happen? And timeliness. So this is where you look at the type of data and say, how quickly do I need to get this into our data set? So for instance, an emergency contact, if you start a new job, I don't want to get that like 4 months down the line. Anything can happen in those 4 months. We could say, you know what, we've got as soon as the person starts, we need to have emergency contacts. And you can date stamp that particular column that you have there and see if you can track how often do we actually get it right, how often do we get it wrong. And then reasonableness. So if we're going back to our citizen, so let's say we got that flood report and we looked at, this is this person here, they look like they've got 200 dependencies. Something is not, it's not within a reasonable range for what we are trying to achieve here. Yeah, so those are the dimensions that you can do. Now, some of these you can do in Excel, which I think is just like one, like the completeness of very quick, there's the blank columns, but you need to have a good tool to be able to do this in. We had an organization where we tried this and we just said to people, go and figure out your data issues. And the number one thing that came back was, we don't know how to do this without the proper technology. So you need to get a good quality tool to assess your data. So it's to what we call profiling, profiling your data. Okay, I don't see any questions going in here. All right, cool. So I'm just going to continue on my end. So next here is root cause and correct. So coming back to where we said reactive versus proactive, we want to fix the issues as close to the source as possible. That's it. Now, what quite a few. Oh, sorry, yes.
Ask if there are any tools that you would recommend in checking data sources, or is it just whatever you're using, even if it's Excel, you can just use like a data filter kind of a thing, or data duplicates check. I know with Excel it has those features, but is there like an IT tool that
Yeah. So in all honesty, I wouldn't even use Excel, especially if you're in a large organization. So a cool tool to use is Informatica IDQ, Informatica Data Quality. You can put lots of, it connects directly to the source, and then it runs the profiling, and you get a report in terms of your data, which means you don't have to take it, put it into a document, figure some stuff out. It just links directly to the source, which is fantastic. I think it also has the functionality to write back to the source, but I know I haven't had a company that actually used that functionality because they were like, that may cause a little bit of issues. So yeah, Informatica Data Quality, IDQ. I'll just check the proper name. I always just use the abbreviation. Yeah, that's a good one to use. Okay. So once you've profiled your data and you see all the errors, and actually, I think I've got a screenshot of the IDQ later in the presentation, just to see what a dashboard could look like. Now, what quite a few companies are good at, but reactively, is performing the soft remediation where you correct it and okay, cool. Sometimes they don't do the root causing, but they just correct at that surface level. So to give you an example, we had someone sent me a data set, and they were looking at the email addresses. I didn't even have to use a fancy tool to kind of get to the reason why it was so bad is people put down 123@gmail.com. As long as it was an at and gmail.com, or there was some really weird stuff that went in there. It was just like, guys, this is a human that put this in there. There is no way that somebody said my email address was 123@gmail.com and somebody on the other end was like, that sounds legit. So it may have been, so we needed to do some root causing in terms of, well, why is that the human behavior? Why are people putting down 123@gmail.com? And some of the things came back is to say, well, we lose the customer when we ask the email address, and then they're like, but should I give it to you? Why should I give it to you? Type things like that. People just don't want to give it, but the system doesn't allow you to continue without one. So I just put anything in there that fits the rules that the system has. So like I said, as long as there's some type of something at a whatever in a domain, then the system allows it. So you need to look at those business practices and behaviors as well around it, else you're always going to go into a loop of data quality improvement. And there are quite a few things that you or tools that you can use for this. I see Johnny asked, that system cost how much? It is quite, if you're a large organization, I think, yeah, I've only seen it in large orgs because it is so expensive. But yeah, I don't know if there are any other data quality tools that are quite more cost effective. I can do some research for you, John. All right, so let's go into some of the root cause analysis. Now, this, if you've done any type of continuous improvement training or Lean Six Sigma type things, this will be like old news to you, but we use it. We need to figure out why is something happening. So you can do the 5 whys. In this case, you just, what is the symptom? So the service is slow. Why? Food orders are late. Why? The chef isn't cooking. My gosh, why the chef isn't cooking? This is a restaurant. He's busy washing the dishes. Why? Because we ran out of plates. Okay, you just now when we do the 5 whys, it doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to come to 5. Sometimes it can be a little bit more, sometimes it ends at 3. And I use this tool all the time. It's not just for like data, for anything. My email was shut down last year, and my website, and I couldn't understand, and I just asked myself why. The thing is, I didn't pay my bill, and I was like, okay, but why? It turns out that you get 2 payments, one for the actual month to month, and then also domain renewal, and I didn't pay the other one. So I got to the root cause of it, and I was like, okay, let's go into direct debit instead of me paying an invoice, and that solved the problem. Do we have a system for small, medium enterprise? Tebogo, I actually don't have an answer for you right now, but I'll definitely check in if there is something more in that range. There are forms to complete where they say company email address. Like me does not. I get you. Yeah, so that's absolutely, Johnny. So what Johnny is saying here, that sometimes people ask for email addresses, but people may not have it. So that's also a reason why that could be part of the problem. But you have to go into the problem to see what it is. Is there something that you need to change? So in that instances, and I've seen that before with clients actually, where they're like, okay, but our demographic, so let's just say the older generation don't have email. So what do we do in that case? So one way that organizations can go around that is to say, okay, so maybe there are certain things that are non-negotiable, and then other things that are optional. So maybe the email address is then optional for what we have, but we get another form of contact. And that is a business decision that needs to be made. So coming back to the root cause analysis, so 5 whys is a very good tool. I use it all the time. And then we also get the Pareto chart. Oh, this is also one of my favorite tools. I'm such a nerd. I get like, whew, I'm in love with this tool. So this is, for instance, somebody that kept on being late, and let's just say they tracked them for a year. And what you do in this instance is you link the number of instances when a specific reason is the issue. In this case, the most frequent of it were the traffic. So maybe we need to do something about the traffic issue. So I know in my sister's company where they work, they had these type of issues, and they knew it wasn't because people were lazy or anything like that. So they changed their working hours in terms of the organization to say you can work from home in the morning, and then you come in if there are meetings or anything like that in the afternoon, so you're not late, you're still working, you're just doing it from a different location. So yeah, those are the type of things that we look at to see what changes do we need to make in order to reduce the frequency of these errors, or why these errors are there. I quite like the affinity model as well. So this you usually use where you are brainstorming and you have multiple teams come together and everybody just lists like, oh, but this is something that happened, and they put it on sticky notes. And then you categorize it into different categories. You put those little stickies there, and then you go into like a voting type scenario where people say, which are the 3 things that you would focus on to fix? And then people go in, and the one with the most stars, that, for instance, is something that you can use to start the process of fixing things. The affinity model, I haven't used this. I don't use this very often, but there are scenarios where it's like, you know what, actually, we should just do something like this. And then our fishbone diagram. This is looking at the effect, and you work your way back based on specific categories. So this is this was more of a funny one. So this was where somebody got some low scores, a med student or a law student. And they were like, okay, so let's figure out why that was. And when he talks about his environment, he was like, you know what, social media was a distraction, and I studied way too close to my bed, so I just went to bed, type thing. But this is a cool way for you to also look at, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm observing. If we look at people, maybe processes, technology, or whatever else you want to put here as your categories. What are the things that are contributing for those? And you can do this for data quality. If this is low data quality, what are the things that I need to look at to fix it? So there are various diagrams and models that you can use to get to the root cause. And the thing is, one of the biggest problems that apart from people not profiling the data or knowing what the key data elements are or knowing what the business goal is that they go into solution mode really, really quickly, and then put a plaster on a headache, as opposed to understanding why the error is happening and taking care of that, or at least planning to take care of that. Katleja, I see that you were smiling. What's happening?
No, when you zoomed in, I saw the people. When you zoomed in on people, they one mentioned some of the things was so that I found it very interesting. But then also it reminds me of the issues we had as well from I think that you alluded to technology. So when we had a data migration from a legacy system, so essentially when like we consider a system obsolete, but it still houses very, very important data. And it could be obsolete for many reasons, maybe different language, a new language was developed that's better. Maybe the people that created that program have long time ago tired. So naturally, we want to build new functionalities into the system. So, but we still need the legacy data. So we would then have to, build the new system, but then ensure that the communication between the old system and the new system is accurate. But later down the line, we figured out that something was off with the actual data. And it's probably because like it's starting to, whenever we synced the two systems, it needs to pull information into the wrong cells. And that caused an issue later on that we didn't recognize. So so that I got reminded of that issue and how tireless nights we spent trying to fix that one in order to prep for our analysis. So,
yeah, it's harsh vibes, eh? Bad data.
Yeah, bad data is it ends all of your analysis. All your maths goes out the window because it doesn't mean anything.
If you can't continue. Exactly. You're just going to have trash outputs. So yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, let's see what else is funny here. I also saw that and I just laughed. I chuckled a little bit. It's like the drama. You're right, the drama, very important. This is sad. Exam anxiety. All right.
Maybe inflation as well, eh?
What else did you see?
The same was put the inflation and general price increases in petrol. That is enough to cause people to make mistakes. Anxiety. I guess it's linked to like anxiety and stuff, but okay.
Gotcha. All right. I see somebody's asking. Yes, the presentation will be made available. Okay. So now we get into prevention. I don't know if that is a word. It should be. It sounds good. So this is where you're looking. No, just, sometimes I speak French without me knowing. So this is performing hard remediation. So stopping the rot, like actually taking care of the root cause analysis. And trust me, this is not an easy process because sometimes you have to go back to Johnny and be like, dude, like what? You need to do better type thing. So some of the more common things that happens or that you can do to fix it's maybe a process change. It could be you need to manage agreements. So I had an organization. So they were the organization here, and then they had customers here, but they had somebody in the middle. So the person in the middle gets the data from the customer. Cool. Send this off to the main organization. The problem is the person in the middle didn't want to share the data of the customer. So whenever they said like contact details, if they just put theirs like 75 times over, you see a customer record, different names, cool ID numbers, but all with the same contact details. And it's like, okay, that's bad, right? So you may have to change agreements with these companies. And those are not easy conversations to have. Let's be completely honest. It could be system development, like we said before. You could build in validations into the systems where it doesn't accept certain values if it doesn't meet the conformity standards. Or it could be just business rule or model changes that you need to do. But usually when you are performing hard remediation, it is a little bit more intense in terms of getting the things sorted. You have to go to the very source of the data. You're absolutely right, Johnny. So one of the questions that I always get is, how do you know that you fix the root cause of the problem? It is when you have the problem, you take the solution, whatever that was, and the problem no longer occurs. And if you switch the solution off, the problem comes back. That's how you know you've reached it. So for me, for instance, I love a good Netflix and I don't know how to say stop to myself. And the next day I'm a zombie. But if I stop watching the Netflix like 8 o'clock, I don't have the problem. So that is the problem that I need to fix. So yeah, if it doesn't occur, you fix the problem. Now we go, there we go. Here is this is the IDQ that I was talking about. So this is like a dashboard that you could get back on a specific data set to say how accurate was your data, how complete, the conformity to it. The uniqueness here is like the duplications, but you can build in those rules and you can use these reports that are running straight from the data sources. And when you monitor, you need to, yes, monitor against your previous. So let's just say you run these tests every week to see how the data is improving. It's all good. But going back to the goal that we set before, if the data is improving, you still need to check if there is a correlation between the data that is improving versus the business goal that you are saying that you need to achieve. Because we may have defined the business problem or the goal that we had, and we said these are the key data elements, but we could have been mistaken. There may have been other data elements that we did not identify. So even though this is improving, which is great, it may still not solve your problem. So you need to ensure there's a correlation between your data quality improvement and your business goal. Is the one causing the other one to improve or get to your goals? And you need somebody to look at this very closely to understand. So there's quite a bit. I know one company, that you can also actually in this tool, you can also track the amount of updates or the amount of corrections that people have made. In 1 month, one team, they made like 10,000 corrections on a data set. And that was the tip of the iceberg. It was like, my gosh, these guys have worked really hard on this. But you definitely need to monitor if the things that you are doing is actually getting you the value that you set out to do. And that is it right now for data quality. Just a quick midpoint check. How are we doing on time, Katlego? We're doing good?
We are on the mark. We're actually halfway there. We're like, I think, yeah, we have a full 60 minutes left. Wow.
Yes. Fantastic.
Yes. And
all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Just a quick heart, so thumbs up if you're still alive, you're still here. I just want to get some interaction. I'm like Tinkerbell, guys. I need validation to keep me alive, Oh, I got a little sparkly hat thing. Don't ask me for names for stuff. I can't. What is the birthday?
Yeah, it's like blowing a little to make a sound, and then you see all the celebratory pieces of sparkly things come out. I also don't know how to describe it.
Well, you guys, I always thought that icon was like a party hat that was just festive. Okay, now it's somebody saying here it's a party popper. Okay, I learned something. Thank you. Cool. Right, let's go into data ownership. Oh, my favorite. Okay. I think I'm a little excited. So I'm going to go into the boring stuff first. Why is data ownership so important? Well, it's really about accountability, right? It's one of those where two people, where you have two people are supposed to do something, or one person is supposed to do something, but you've got two names to it and something goes wrong, and then the blame game happens. That's never good. Anytime I run a project and I say, who's the person who needs to do this? I'm like, give me somebody who's accountable here. I just need to understand, if the pawpaw hits the fan, who do I go to? And it's the same. Tebogo is saying, not my fave because of accountability. Absolutely right. Do you know how many people, when we talk about data ownership, just keeps on passing the ball to some, it's not my problem. It's not mine. It's not mine. I haven't gotten to an organization where they were fighting over ownership, where it's like, no, it's my data. It's my data. No, I have not yet come across that. But yeah, it's really about accountability. It's also easier to collaborate across teams. You don't need to hunt down the person with the most knowledge of the data. Oh, this is just so inefficient when you don't know where to go. Faster decision making. Owners understand their data and they need to monitor the quality very closely. So when we have to make decisions, it's like, dude, what do you think? What are your insights? Okay, cool. Let's run with it. Let's run with it. And we don't have somebody that's just like, oh, let me first go and figure out how this came to be. And that just slows down the process. And then, of course, security and accessibility. You need to know who should be accessing your data. Not everybody can see everything. And yeah, this is just a little bit of theory of why data ownership is so important. The parts that we struggle with the most in the organizations is not knowing that the ownership is important, is how do we assign data ownership? And I'll go through some of the pitfalls and questions and things that we usually get. And yeah, a little bit. So I want us to go back to our McDonald's example. Who do you think is responsible for the quality of the data that is listed here? So we've got the previous orders, the availability of foods, local trends. Just let me see in the chat. Who do you think? Is it one owner? Is it multiple owners? What's happening? What do you think? Katlego, if nobody answers on the chat, I'm going to come to you. I'm just saying, you or Yoko. Oh, Prof. Inga, are you back? Really, Johnny? McDonald's is accountable. Okay, fine. McDonald's is accountable. So we are going to make Yoko. I see your
marketing department. Well, not for the weather, but for the rest of the stuff, the trends, availability, previous orders.
Marketing. Previous orders. Okay. Okay, we're seeing each branch. That is an interesting. Each branch. Yeah. Okay, so I think with this, the executives. Okay, cool. Which execs? Like, yeah, I think what I want to illustrate here is when we're talking about, it's not always that clear cut, right? Yoko, you were saying the marketing department, and I'm looking, for instance, at availability. This is the availability of the food in the kitchen. Does that sound like a marketing?
No, different department.
Different department, right? Now, can you imagine across different branches, if you have subsidiaries, if you have a parent company, if you have, let's say, client data that is sitting in 3 different departments, it becomes a little bit difficult to identify the data owner, like who is accountable for the quality of this data, right? So one thing that I like to do is ask a simple question. We're going to look at it from a domain perspective, and I'm just going to ask, who has the authority to make the rules about this specific data set? So let's say we break this up into different domains, and we see finance, and it could be that your chief financial officer, because it is part of his job to make sure that the what do they do? What are those things that you have to produce? Your balance sheet, your income statements, all of those kind of stuff. I mean, it looks kind of obvious. Hey, finance, are you happy that these products, data products that are finance related, and which means that data domain is your accountability. Do you think you are the owner, and do you have the authority to make rules around that? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm clear. Maybe suppliers would do the same, and they are also like, yep, just one owner. I see somebody say here the chief data officer. Ooh, that is an interesting. See, usually a company has one chief data officer, right? Now, remember, this is the person that needs to make rules about specific data. And then they also need to make sure that the quality of that data is quite good. They need to make sure that there's data stewards in the organization who can work with their data custodians who are sitting in IT to make sure that the data is available. The chief data officer, do you, just in the chat, yes or no, do you think that all of that responsibility should be with one person in the organization? Just yes or no in the chat? No, no. Ooh, we've got a yes, no. Okay, so this is where we need to be very, very clear in terms of the roles, what the roles mean in our organization. Okay, so for one company, for instance, we do have a chief data officer, and we were very clear to say, chief data officer, your accountability is that you own the data and information policy. You make sure that you have that oversight, making sure that people need to do what they need to do. But the ownership of specific data domains, it goes to the people with the domain expertise. So when it comes to finance data, the chief data officer may not be a financial person. So for them to make decisions about that specific data set may be very difficult because of the lack of domain expertise. So for finance data, we are saying that will be your chief financial officer, that because he's got domain expertise, he understands the data, he knows how things come to be and things like that. So we need to be very clear in terms of what do we mean by data owner versus a role that needs to look at the overarching policy, for instance, that needs to be implemented. So what happens when people start fighting about it? So let's take customer data, for instance. Let's say that is unclear. You can say, all right, so let's see if we can split data sets into sub data sets that would make a more natural fit with people. So we could have, let's say if you're in an insurance company, you could have the customer risk details that belongs to the underwriting manager, and then you can have the customer contact details that can lie with the customer journey executive, for instance. So we always try to do it at a higher level first. If it becomes a little bit shaky and a little bit unclear, you go down to, you split it up. In some cases now, just because you made this decision in the beginning doesn't mean it will always stay that way. Sometimes it's like, this is how it was in the past, but because of changes that were happening, we think that it needs to come back to customer detail and have just one data owner. So it's going to be different for different companies in terms of how you are finding a data owner. Now, this is semi easy to understand, right? But when you get into it, you still get quite a few questions where like, okay, I'm a data owner, but what exactly is it that I need to do? And, you know, I get data from other people. So am I accountable for the data that comes into the product that I create? So we need to figure that out as well. Now, one thing that you can do, and this is just a conceptual way for you to explain it to other people in terms of, let's look at ownership. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the SIPOC process. Now, this is something that wait a minute. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at some Zoom functionality here. All right, so SIPOC is where you look at what process am I performing, what is the output that I'm creating because I have executed the process, and who am I sending that output to? And in order for me to do that process, what inputs do I need for it, and who are the people that is sending it to me? So my suppliers. So this is a cool way just to get a very high view of your data. Now, I stole this from our continuous improvement toolkit. It's usually when you try to figure out a high level process, but it works all great for data as well. So let's go through a couple of one example, for instance, here. So let's say you've got a call center consultant, right? Their process that they do, they create a cell phone contract. Now, in order for them to do that, they need to have customer details, and they get that from the customer themselves. Great. Once they've created that cell phone contract, on the system, there's a contract record, and the person who is most interested in that contract record is the manager. Fantastic. Great. Next, our manager, remember the person here, takes that, consolidates all the contracts. So what does he need? He needs the contract records, and his supplier is the call center consultant. And what he does with that is he creates a new contract customer support report, and the BI analyst is most interested in that because they need to do some other stuff, for instance. Okay, great. Now, the last part of the process here, the BI analyst takes that new customer contract report that they received from their manager, performs some analysis, and then get some insights on customer profiles. And then their customer is, for instance, back to the manager so that they can see like, ooh, and get some insights and what do we need to do to get more customers or anything like that. Great. Now, to bring it back to data quality, if the customer details is trash here, your insights is going to be trash here, right? Garbage in, garbage out. Just highlighting that. Okay, so we need to make sure that we look at the quality at every step of the process of the data. Now, before I get into what that has to do with data ownership, I just want to highlight when we say data as a product, what that means. It's going to be important. So just give me a thumbs up if you've got Netflix or any subscription type thingy where you watch stuff. And, you know, even if you are Parasite number 4, like I am, I don't have my own Netflix subscription. I refuse. I just find a willing person who share their password with me. That's all I'm saying. So cool. So a data as a product could be, you know, this because you watched whatever it is, and then they give you some recommendation that is based on quite a few data points that they've collected, looking at what you've watched, the scenes that you have replayed, things that you have watched many times, and there's some powerful algorithms going on there. And then they create this product, which is your recommendation. That is a data product. So bear that in mind, okay? So we've had the process and the SciPark, and we've got data as a product, and that's going to help you with ownership in some way, shape, or form. Just trust the process. Okay. Now, when we look at products, I'm going to look at it at 3 levels. It will make sense soon, I promise. So you've got data, which is the raw information, raw data, that is transformed into information, and then eventually you get to knowledge, right? So raw data, integration and transformation, you get your information, then you apply interpretation and synthesization, and then you get your knowledge and your insight. So bear this in mind, you've got 3 of these. Cool. And anybody who was here last week knows that when we got our knowledge and your insights, that is where you put your call to actions. But anyway, so we've got our data as a product, and you need to look at it from raw data, information, and knowledge. And this is going to help you with your data ownership. Okay, so why do we look at all 3? Quick question. Well, wait, before I ask the question. This is the most common question that we get asked when we try to identify owners, right? Is somebody saying, I know I produce this product. So let's say it's the balance sheet, but I get data from 70 other people and they give me the wrong stuff, and that is why mine is looking wrong. So how can you tell me that I'm accountable for what's in here? Right, that's the number one thing that gets back. It's I know I created, but my gosh, people need to do their jobs and give me the right stuff back. And this is why we're looking at it at all 3 stages. Now, question that I quickly have, and we're going to be talking about food. So anybody who's hungry, I do apologize. Pineapple, yes or no on a pizza? Just if you say yes, give me a thumbs up and give me a sad face if you're like, no, it does not belong on a pizza, before we get anywhere else. Okay, we've got, now you see, you guys are my kind of people. It definitely belongs on a pizza. I'm just like saying. Now, what does that have to do with data ownership? So imagine you're a customer, okay? And you ordered a pizza from someone. Cool, you've got the pizza, right? A whole thing, a whole pizza. That person got their inputs, their ingredients from, I don't know, give me a store name, from Woolies or something, or Pick n Pay, it doesn't matter. Okay. If something, and then we've got our, let's just say it's Domino's Pizza that created the pizza. If you are the customer and you tasted the pizza and something was off and you know that it was the cheese that was a little bit off, who are you going to complain to? Domino's, because they created the pizza? Or are you going to go to Pick n Pay, who gave them the cheese? So I just want in the comments, Domino's or Pick n Pay. You're going to go to Domino's. I got Domino's. Exactly. And the same principle applies when we are creating data products. If you are creating a balance sheet or an income statement or whatever it is, if there's something wrong on that report, we are going to go to you because you are the creator of that product, not everybody else that you got the data from. Okay, it is your responsibility to make sure that that thing is correct. That is your job. Domino's, definitely. I actually had a meeting this afternoon with a client, and we had the exact conversation. It was like, okay, let's talk about pizza. After this, they were like, oh yeah, no, it's definitely mine. I can see that. I need to make sure that. I'm just like, oh, food solves everything. That's all I'm saying. So just a very quick question. Can the call center consultant be held responsible for the new contract customer report? Yes or no in the chat. I just want to see. Katlego, I saw your thinking face go up. Did you have an answer?
Don't really have an answer. Should I go with the tide? Everybody's saying no. Or should I be saying yes? If it's their responsibility to produce a report, new contract reports, customer reports, yeah. Depends on, like, either they would have made calls to get new clients, sell them a new product, and then they will probably document it some way. So I can argue it from that point and say yes. But I can also see how it's a no.
Okay, you're just making some stuff up now, like in all honesty.
Like a politician.
Like, what? Why are you hedging your answer? No, absolutely not.
Hedging answer is great.
Absolutely not, because he is not the one creating. So you see who does it? It's the manager who creates that new customer report. Yes, the call center consultant provided the input for that, but you cannot hold this little guy that's so far in the value chain accountable for the stuff that you're doing here. Now, what you're supposed to be doing is to say, hey, you gave me crappy data. Let's go back to the source and fix it. That is something, that's a completely different thing, but they cannot be held responsible for the products that you are creating with data. Very cool. So you have, I'm just going to go back here. I need to explain data consumer versus data. All right. So in this instance, the call center consultant is a consumer of customer details that's provided by the customer, and a producer of the contract record that they provide to their customer. Okay, so in a process, you can be both a consumer and a producer depending on the direction of the data. So if I get it, I'm a consumer. If I create it and send it, I am a producer. Now, there are certain things as a consumer and a producer that you need to do regarding data quality. So bringing this back to what we had before, as a consumer, when you get the data, you need to determine the fitness of use. Remember, right in the beginning, we said data quality is about the fitness of use. If you cannot use the data the way that it was sent to you, and you have to do hordes and hordes of fixing and things like that, that is not a good process. That is not something that you should be doing. You should be saying, hey, I cannot use this. These are my requirements. Please go and fix it, fix it, fix it, until such time you continuously improve that process, right? As a consumer, as a data producer, it is your role in terms of quality to get the requirements from your customer to determine the fitness of use. Now, one of the biggest problems that I keep on saying one of the biggest problems, all of these problems are just so big. So one of the problems that people have is when we create something, and this is now not just for data, right? It's like things that we do in our jobs, anywhere, is sometimes we create things because it's easy for us to create it in that way. It's comfortable, as opposed to client, what works for you, and let me adjust my process to make sure that the client gets what they want. So when we look at the data, if I go back here, oh, here we go. If we go back here, our manager should have let the call consultant know, hey, if in order for me to create a fantastic product on this, and I need you to pull up your socks and create something better when it comes to the contract record. The same with the business, the BI analyst. Hey, if you want the insights that you want, I can't do it on the data that you're giving me. You need to go and grab more data type things. So remember, consumer, producer, there are certain things that you need to do from a quality perspective. And you cannot hold someone accountable for a product that they did not create, even if they are giving the input to that data. And this is why our quality controls in a process is quite important. So you need to assess that data. You need to make sure that you get requirements for what good quality data looks like. And it may look different for different customers that you are sending, sometimes even the same product to. You need to make sure that it meets their requirement. Okay. Just a last note that we have here, if you have garbage data, doesn't matter what project you're running, an initiative, you can do fantastic things, you're still going to get garbage results. And that is the end of this webinar, or what do you call it, masterclass. There we go. Do we have any questions? Okay, no questions in another language. Preguntas, in Spanish at least. Vraag.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's it. Yeah, I don't know too. All right. Any questions?
I foresee cyber being an issue for data breaches and data quality checks, data quality changes and stuff. And
what do you mean?
Like cyber attacks, like your cyber risks and stuff that could, yeah. What I've realized is if your data has an issue, like there's some data quality stuff, and we thought that it was this, but it turns out that it was a cyber attack or a virus or something like that. So, so I just reminded myself of that when I recalled your root causes and you spoke about technology and stuff. So it's quite interesting. Wow, this is very, very, very cool. Oh wow, everybody's getting good comments, guys. Feel free to jump in with some interesting questions or challenges within the data quality space. Okay.
Data is the new electricity of today. Yeah.
Don't say that. We don't have load shedding, so
yeah.
True.
Thanks, Johnny.
I might have skipped this, but we did address Luis's one about what about splitting into responsible, accountable, consulting, and informed.
Oh, I see the racy. Oh, sorry, I missed that one, Louise, as well. What about splitting into responsible, accountable, consulting, and informed? Okay, that's a very good question. If I can go back here, so it Where is our ownership? No, this is the thing that I wanted to look at. Okay. So in the realm of data, you can almost say this is a like for accountable and responsible. When it comes to a data owner, the data owner is accountable for something. They may not execute on it, but they make the rules around how things need to work, right? And then you get someone called a data steward that is below the data owner, and they are responsible for making sure that things do happen by following the rules, checking in on the quality, leading if there's it's a very complicated or complex business unit or company, for instance, you may have a steward that's above everybody else and start socializing policies and standards and checking if things are going okay. That's like the job. So for me, there's a link between ownership, accountability, stewardship, responsibility. Yeah, I don't know if that, I'm not quite sure where the consulting and, well, the consulting and informed can come in where we're talking about that process view that we have. Who do we consult to get the product going, and who do we inform or send the product to? That's how I can see the linkages between those frameworks that we have. Johnny, the custodian, when we talk about data, usually that refers to the IT person. Okay, so there's a relationship between all of these guys. So you've got your data owner. I'm accountable for making decisions about the type of data that we have. Data steward, go and implement the stuff so that the data quality is all good and everything is working great. Now, what that data steward also needs to do is work with their IT counterpart of where the data is sitting to make sure that the data is accessible and it is available for whomever needs to use that data. So the IT person is usually what we call the data custodian, and they all need to work together because they all have very important parts to play in the data realm. You also have someone called like the system owner that's also in the IT space that owns the entire system, for instance, where the data is housed in. Yeah, there's quite a few data roles that you have. In one of our companies, we also have like an information manager that takes on the role of the governance side of it, the policies and the standards and all of those kind of things, making sure that the policies that we're implementing is actually helping to build the capabilities of all the other data capabilities. So not just quality. Quality is but one capability. There is like 50 others that we also need to build, and you can do that through data governance where your information manager may sit. Any other questions that we have here? Did I miss anything else?
Okay, just check here. I don't know if we also answered Deborah's question about the ownership is a bit of a problem when there is an issue, when there's an existing data and you find the responsibility party has left, the present one does not want to take responsibility. Oh, I guess what statement, but yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
absolutely. Where you had an established and then somebody new comes in. Now, this is where your data governance comes in, right? Because you need to have processes in place to make sure that if anybody leaves a data governance role, whether it is an owner, a steward, or anything, they're leaving a vacuum. They need to be filled within a specific time. And I have come across where new people come in and they question why the ownership sits with us. So one good way of looking at it is to be, like I said, be very clear in terms of what this person is meant to do. Now, if I come into a role and I look at that role description of what the data owner needs to do, I need to provide the evidence for me to say, I cannot play that role, and this is why, and come up with other alternatives. But you need to sort out that process as a governance issue. So you need to understand your policies and standards very well. Yeah, I mean that's what we're doing with process ownership as well. I usually ask a question like, if the pawpaw hits the fan, where do we go to? So if we go to you, do you not have a vested interest in making sure that the process is properly done? It's like, that's a different way of putting it, I suppose. So you go to the person with the vested interest to get that data quality out. Yeah, you have to have that documented and hash it out with the right level of authority. Sometimes you have to even go like to the chief data officer, or somebody with authority that can help sort that madness out. Okay, anybody else? Did I miss anything else, Katlego?
I don't think so. Okay.
Although, this was McDonald's. Okay, cool.
One
All
more
right.
round. Okay, one more round, guys. Sure. Last minute questions. Data quality around the voting elections. Okay, release stories around what you guys have experienced from data quality issues.
Oh, you're asking. I thought you were reading. I'm like, I can't find it.
No.
What voting experience? Okay.
Okay. Looks like everybody's thanks. Okay, thanks. All right, cool.